The Nigerian army today announced plans to investigate and arrest those behind rumors that some of its officers approached the Niger Delta militants for support to carry out a coup. The defense headquarters denied a publication by some online media that the military intends to overthrow the civilian administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. The acting director, Defense Information, Brigadier General Rabi Abubakar, describes the report as baseless and misleading. He says, quote, "The entire Nigerian armed forces therefore distances itself from this story, as it not only is mischievous and baseless, but has the intent to heat up the polity and cause public apprehension." End of quote. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Gabriel Olunishakin, gives Nigerians the assurance that the military will continue to be apolitical and will do everything possible to defend and protect the nation's democracy. 3 Australian citizens and 1 resident have been kidnapped in Cross River State. The perpetrators also abducted 3 other people and killed the driver of a vehicle in the incident, which occurred in Calabar, the state capital. The hostages, 2 of whom the police say later escaped, are contractors for cement company Lafarge Africa. A spokeswoman for the company, Viola Graham Douglas, says they've been informed of the incident by the Australian contractor McMahon Holdings Limited and that they are working with the security agencies to resolve the situation. In the meantime, the Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull has described the incident as very serious.
3 Australians and 1 Australian resident, New Zealand citizen, were among 7 people captured, kidnapped I should say, in a attack on an Australian contractor's operations in Nigeria. 1 person was killed in the attack. The Australian High Commissioner is on the scene, and we are working with the authorities, the local authorities at the highest levels. We don't know at this stage the identity of the kidnappers, and the families have been notified, of course. But what I would say is encourage you to be restrained in your reporting. In many respects, the less Julie and I say about this, the better, from the point of view of recovering the kidnapped people. Okay, but it is a very serious kidnapping, a very serious criminal assault. 1 person was killed, as you know, and the 7 people have been kidnapped.
And in its own reaction, the Cross River State government says it's doing all it can to ensure the immediate release of the kidnapped expatriates. Speaking on the incident, the state security advisor, Jude Ngaji, said that the heads of security agencies in the state are working with the government to free the captives. Let's cross over to Abuja now. Here's Yemisi Ikpai. Yemisi.
Hello, Ejoma. Lovely to see you and welcome to Abuja, the nation's capital. Members of the All Progressive Congress caucus at the Senate have declared their support for President Muhammadu Buhari and his anti-corruption campaign. This comes a day after their counterparts in the People's Democratic Party announced withdrawal of their support for the president over his anti-corruption fight, which they described as lopsided. Speaking at a news conference with reporters in Abuja, the APC lawmakers also urged the PDP caucus members to have a rethink of their decision.
We are shocked by the partisan reaction of our colleagues from the minority party, the PDP, to the ongoing investigations about the recovery of public funds meant for the prosecution of the war against insurgency. We do not see the investigation as partisan at all. We don't see it as an effort to intimidate members of a particular political party. There is nothing dictatorial or against the rule of law in all of the actions, programs, and policies of the government led by President Muhammadu Buhari.
3 days after the McCarthy-led caretaker committee of the People's Democratic Party conducted primaries for aspirants in the Edo State governorship election scheduled for September, the Senator Ali Modu Sharif-led faction of the party has set up another committee for the same purpose. The embattled chairman told journalists at a press conference in Abuja that his committee will carry out new primaries on Wednesday, June the 29th, for 3 aspirants who bought forms from his faction. According to him, the Independent Electoral Commission has sent the party their guidelines for the primaries, and he's determined to meet all the requirements set by the electoral umpire for the election. In a swift reaction, the Senator Ahmed McCarthy-led caretaker committee of the People's Democratic Party has condemned the move by Senator Ali Modu Sharif to set up a primary election committee for the Edo governorship election after Monday's exercise, which saw the emergence of Mr. Osage Ize-Iyamu. In a statement, the McCarthy committee says Senator Sharif is working with the enemies of the PDP to completely cripple the party in the interest of the ruling APC. The committee insists that the Edo primary election and all the processes leading to it were properly conducted, monitored and observed by INEC. The committee then sent a stern warning to members serving in any committee set up by Senator Sharif, saying such members will be engaging in anti-party activities and will face disciplinary action. As part of the measures aimed at tackling corruption in the country, the federal government has launched a harmonized standard operating procedures and port services support portal. This is meant to serve as a guideline for operations at all ports around the country. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibajo, says the procedures, policy and automated services portal will enhance port administration and bring more investments into Nigeria. Our correspondent, Omelogo Nnadi, reports.
In 2013, the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network tagged Nigerian ports flashpoints of corruption in their global operations and called for urgent government intervention. It's barely 3 years and an integrity plan drawn up by all port agencies with a harmonized operating procedure and an automated complaints portal have been created to check corruption and position Nigerian ports as the most preferred for business in Africa. The Vice President of Nigeria, who launched the new procedures and portal, believes that with a better regulated administration, the ports will play vital roles in economy diversification.
The SOPs and PSSP would not only streamline processes for port operations, but also serve as an important testament of the need to continue to cooperate and remain committed to our collective efforts to drive inclusive economic growth and development in Nigeria.
The 3 priority areas set to tackle about 19 major challenges of port services in Nigeria require strong collaboration of all government port agencies in what the Ministry of Transport and other key players assure will have far-reaching effects on the nation's economy.
Even if there are temporary or permanent personnel changes, with this launch today, we are certain that unwholesome practices by service providers at the ports will be greatly reduced, if not completely eliminated. It will become easier to detect culprits and defaulters and sanction them.
The next step, and the most important, is implementation. Stakeholders say that that will be the determinant factor for a successful upscale of productivity, government revenue generation, and bringing down sharp practices at Nigerian ports. Omelogo Nnadi, Channels Television News.
Cheery news from the National Agency for the Control of AIDS, which says the prevalence of HIV/AIDS has reduced in West Africa. The Director General of NACA, Mr. John Idoko, told a gathering in Abuja that Nigeria is recording a -3% new infection rate, while Ghana has achieved a -1 prevalence rate.
A former National Security Advisor, retired Colonel Sambo DASUKI, has told the Federal High Court in Abuja that he's being punished by some powerful individuals in the country for the perceived offences he committed some years ago while in the military. In a fresh motion argued by the prosecuting counsel, Chief Dikbo Okpeshe, the federal government prayed the court to allow its witnesses give evidence behind a screen to be provided by the court. He held that the request is hinged on the fact that Colonel DASUKI, as a former military chief, has many loyalists across the country who may jeopardize the trial if it's done in the open. But counsel to Colonel DASUKI, Mr. Joseph Daudu, told the court that asking for a secret trial is a breach of the principle of fair trial because his clients cannot be a threat to any witness, especially given that he's been in custody since December 2015. The court has fixed ruling and continuation of trial for September the 13th, 14th and the 15th. The Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria today took over the assets of 3 companies belonging to the Silverbird Group. AMCON alleges that the assets are being seized following the failure of the company to settle an 11 billion naira loan owed Union Bank and acquired by the corporation. In the meantime, the Group Vice President of Silverbird Group, Guy Murray Bruce, has described the situation as a business arrangement gone south, but insists negotiations are on course and their properties will be restored.
Dialoguing with AMCON for a couple of years on the debt ventures we got into. But unfortunately, today we woke up to this sad event with a lawsuit and it filled buildings in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. However, I've been to the AMCON office and we're coming to a resolution and buildings will be open in the next 1 hour. So basically, we have to be a little bit more stringent and proactive in how we deal with financial institutions and to ensure it doesn't happen again.